Who here loves when their nails are done perfectly? Me. I'm Sarah Gibson Tuttle, and I started Olive in June because let's be real, we all deserve to have gorgeous nails, but who wants to spend a fortune or half their day at the nail salon? That's why I created the Gel Mani system, so you can have that salon-quality gel manicure right at home. And guess what? The best part, each mani only costs $2. Yep, you heard me, $2. No more $60, $70, $80 salon trips that eat up your day. Now you can paint your nails whenever you want, wherever you want, and trust me, you're going to be obsessed with your nails, and everyone is going to ask you where you got them done. And here's a little something extra. Head over to oliveinjune.com and get 20% off your first Gel Mani system with code DIYGEL20. That's code DIYGEL20 for 20% off your first Mani system at oliveinjune.com/DIYGEL20.
Hey friends, it's Nikayla from the podcast Side Hustle Pro. I'm always looking for ways to keep my kids entertained without screens, and the Yoto Mini has been a total lifesaver. My kids are obsessed. Yoto is a screen-free audio player where kids just pop in a card and listen. Hours of stories, music, podcasts, and more, and no screens or ads. With hundreds of options for ages 0 to 12, it's the perfect gift they'll go back to again and again. Check it out at yotoplay.com. YOTOPLAY.com.
If you're a smoker or vapor ready to make a change, you really only need one good reason. But with Zyn nicotine pouches, you'll discover many good reasons. Zyn is America's #1 nicotine pouch brand. Plus, Zyn offers a robust rewards program. There are lots of options when it comes to nicotine satisfaction, but there's only one Zyn. Check out zyn.com/find to find Zyn at a store near you. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Hey friends, it's Nikayla from the podcast Side Hustle Pro. I'm always looking for ways to keep my kids entertained without screens, and the Yoto Mini has been a total lifesaver. My kids are obsessed. Yoto is a screen-free audio player where kids just pop in a card and listen. Hours of stories, music, podcasts, and more, and no screens or ads. With hundreds of options for ages 0 to 12, it's the perfect gift they'll go back to again and again. Check it out at yotoplay.com. YOTOPLAY.com.
Hi, it's Sarah. I'm the founder of Olive in June, and can I tell you the one thing that always makes my day better? A fresh manicure. But who has the time or the money to go to the salon every week? That's why we created the Olive in June Gel Mani system. It gives you that same mani that you get at a salon for so much less. It comes with everything you need, a pro-level lamp, salon-grade tools, our damage-free gel polish that lasts up to 21 days. All you do is prep, paint, cure, and you're good to go. And the best part, it's super easy and so affordable. Each mani breaks down to $2. So let's skip that $80 salon appointment and get the salon quality look at home for so much less and on your schedule. Head to oliveinjune.com/DIYGEL20 and use code DIYGEL20 for 20% off your first Gel Mani system. That's oliveinjune.com/DIYGEL20. Code DIYGEL20 for 20% off your first Gel Mani system.
Hello, I'm Sarah, and welcome to the Whispering Woods After Dark. I've got one long story today, and it's all about a curse. I've been waiting to do this story for quite some time, but because I've mentioned it in the book, I wanted to leave it for a while, and then take another look at it and put an episode together. I just didn't want it, because if you'd bought the book and you'd seen that I've spoken about it in that, I didn't want to repeat myself until enough time had passed. Right, I'll get straight into it. Are you ready for the story? It was a crisp afternoon on September the 19th, 1991. High in the Ötzi Alps, on the Australian-Italian border. Two German hikers, Helmut and Erika Simon, decided to take a shortcut off the main trail. As they traversed a remote glacier pass at 3,210 meters elevation, Helmet spotted something unusual protruding from the melting ice. What looked like a human head and torso. Curious and a bit unnerved, the couple moved closer. They found a leathery brown corpse, half encased in ice. Thinking it might be a recently perished mountaineer, perhaps a victim of a climbing accident, the Simons hurried to alert authorities at a nearby mountain refuge. Over the next few days, a challenging recovery unfolded. Bad weather swept over the glacier, hampering initial attempts to free the body. Teams of alpine gendarmeries and rescue workers took turns chopping at the stubborn ice with ski poles, ice axes, and even a pneumatic jackhammer. It actually took 4 days of labour to finally extract the frozen corpse from its icy tomb. In the process, some of the mysterious man's belongings, bits of leather, stick later identified as part of a bow, and a strange copper axe, were also pulled from the melting ice. On September the 23rd, the body was airlifted by helicopter off the mountain and delivered to the medical examiner's office in Innsbruck, Austria. The police, suspecting a possible crime, treated it initially like a modern forensic case. When archaeologist Konrad Spindler from the University of Innsbruck examined the corpse and artifacts, he immediately sensed this was no recent climber. At least 4,000 years old, he estimated, noting the design of the axe and tools. Radiocarbon tests soon confirmed the astonishing truth. The Iceman, nicknamed Ötzi, after the Ötztal region, lived over 5,000 years ago, around 3,300 BCE. He was older than the pyramids of Egypt, older than Stonehenge, Europe's oldest natural human mummy, perfectly preserved by glacier ice. The Simons Chance discovery had unearthed an unprecedented window into the Copper Age. News of the find spread quickly. Within days, headlines around the world announced that a prehistoric mummy had been discovered in the Alps. The body, quickly dubbed Ötzi the Iceman by an Austrian journalist, captivated scientists and the public. Here was a middle-aged man who had died in the mountains millennia ago, his skin, organs, and even last meals preserved. But who was he? How did he end up dead on that desolate pass? As researchers would soon learn, Ötzi's life and death were as dramatic as the manner in which he was found. And disturbingly, whispers began to suggest perhaps Ötzi did not rest easy in his new modern home. But first, let's travel back in time to Ötzi's final days, long before Helmut Simon ever set foot on that glacier. Imagine the Alps over 5,000 years ago. The air is thinner, the world quieter. A 45-year-old man treks through a high mountain pass. He is short and stocky, about 1.6 meters tall, 50 kilograms in life, with weathered features and deep-set eyes. He wears a crude yet effective ensemble of leather and fur, a goatskin coat, leggings, sturdy shoes insulated with grass, and a bearskin cap. Across his back he carries a deerskin quiver holding a few flint-tipped arrows, only 2 of which are finished and ready to shoot. In one hand he grips the longbow of yew wood, nearly as tall as himself, and at his belt hangs a flint dagger in a woven sheath. Most notably, he wields a copper-bladed axe, an incredibly rare and precious weapon for his time. Copper was a new technology in this era, so this axe hints that Ötzi was someone important. In fact, such a tool was likely a status symbol, indicating he ranked high in his community. Some archaeologists even suspect he might have been a tribal leader or chieftain, given his valuable gear and fur garments. Ötzi likely lived in a farming village in what is now northern Italy. Analysis of pollen and isotopes in his teeth indicates he grew up in the verdant valleys south of the Alps. He was probably a herdsman or a high-altitude shepherd, used to long treks in the mountains, tending goats and sheep. He bore scars of a hard life, arthritis in his joints, and dozens of carbon tattoos on his body, possibly an ancient treatment for pain relief. Despite the hardship, he was resourceful and well-equipped for survival in the wild. He carried mushrooms with medicinal properties, a birch bark container for carrying embers, and tools to start fires and repair his weapons. By all evidence, Ötzi was quite crafty and prepared for the challenges of his environment. Unfortunately, Ötzi's world was not peaceful. He lived during the Copper Age, a time of emerging technologies, but also competition for resources. Evidence on his body suggests a violent end to his life. Scientists eventually discovered that Ötzi had an arrowhead lodged deep in his left shoulder. He'd been shot from behind. The arrow pierced a vital artery, likely causing him to bleed to death within minutes. He also sustained defensive wounds, cuts on his hands, wrists, and a nasty gash on his ribcage, perhaps from an earlier skirmish a day or 2 before his death. It appears Ötzi was ambushed high in the mountains, the victim of an attack by one or more assailants. This truly became, as one reporter quipped, the world's oldest cold case. So what exactly happened up there on the Alpine Pass? While we can't know for certain, researchers have pieced together a compelling scenario from the forensic clues. Ötzi's last meal tells us he was well fed shortly before his death. He had eaten a hearty serving of wild ibex goat, red deer, and unleavened bread just hours prior. This suggests he wasn't expecting a fight. He likely thought he was safe enough to rest and eat. Some theorise Ötzi and a companion were travelling through the mountains when they were attacked by rival hunters or enemies from another tribe. Ötzi sustained a deep cut on his hand, perhaps parrying a blade in close combat, but managed to flee. The blood analysis on his gear revealed traces of blood from 4 other people on his coat and weapons, hinting that Ötzi may have wounded or even killed at least 2 of his attackers during the confrontation. There is even a theory that one of those blood traces came from a comrade he tried to carry to safety. In the end, Ötzi was shot in the back by an arrow as he tried to escape. The attacker seemingly came from behind and above him on the ridge, a perfect vantage point. The arrow's shaft was missing, lightly yanked out by the shooter, but the flint arrowhead remained deeply embedded near Ötzi's left shoulder, cutting through nerves and arteries. Critically wounded, Ötzi still managed to stagger a short distance. In his final moments, with nobody to help him, it seems Ötzi deliberately put his belongings aside and lay down and expired. He didn't just keel over. He was probably exhausted and hurt like hell. There, alone in a mountain gully, Ötzi bled out and succumbed to his injuries. Soon after, a freak change in weather sealed his body under ice and snow, freezing him in time until his discovery 53 centuries later. The story of Ötzi's death is tragic, also scientifically remarkable. His frozen corpse provided an archaeological treasure trove. The contents of his stomach, the pollen on his clothes, the copper axe, the tattoos, all these clues have allowed researchers to reconstruct Copper Age life in unprecedented detail. We now know Ötzi suffered from arthritis and Lyme disease, had cavities from a grain-heavy diet, and even carried parasitic worms in his gut. He had over 60 tattoos, which aligned with acupuncture points, suggesting therapeutic practices long before recorded history. And intriguingly, a recent DNA analysis of Ötzi's genome revealed he had dark eyes, possibly balding dark hair, and genetically was more closely related to early Anatolian farmers than to modern Alpine peoples. This man's life and death continue to be studied and debated, offering insight into the human story across millennia. Yet for all the knowledge Ötzi's discovery brought, it also carried a darker legacy in the present day. As the years passed after 1991, a pattern of misfortune began to emerge, a string of untimely deaths among those who had handled or studied the Iceman. Whispers of an Ötzi curse began to take hold. It started as a rumour, a tabloid curiosity, but as body after body piled up, the tale of the Iceman took an eerie turn that wouldn't be out of place in a horror movie. Not long after Ötzi was pulled from his icy grave, strange things started befalling people connected to him. In 1992, less than a year after the discovery, the first tragedy struck. Dr. Rainer Henn, the 64-year-old forensic pathologist who had carefully placed Ötzi's body into a body bag with his bare hands, was killed in a horrific car accident on his way to a conference to present findings on the Iceman. His car collided head-on with another vehicle, killing him instantly. At the time, it just seemed like a terrible coincidence, but it was the first hint that Ötzi's disturbance might carry a cost. Soon after, another death followed. Kurt Fritz, 52, an experienced mountain guide who had led Dr. Henn and the recovery team to the glacier site, met an uncanny end in 1993. Despite being an expert climber who knew the region intimately, Fritz was killed by an unexpected avalanche while leading a group of tourists in the Alps. He was the only one in his party to be killed by the snowslide. His companions survived unscathed. Those who knew Fritz were baffled. How could such a skilled alpinist be caught off guard in familiar terrain? Already 2 men closely involved with Ötzi's unearthing were dead within a year, and people began to recall the old curse of the pharaohs legend, when several of Tutankhamun's discoverers died mysteriously. Was this mere chance, or was something darker at play? The next victim of Ötzi's alleged curse was Rainer Holtz, a 47-year-old Austrian journalist who'd been the only person allowed to film Ötzi's removal from the ice. Holtz produced an hour-long documentary on the Iceman that aired worldwide, a scoop any journalist would envy. But mere months after the film's release, in 1994, Holtz was diagnosed with a malignant brain tumour. It grew rapidly, and he tragically died that same year. 3 men connected to Ötzi, all dead within 3 years of the discovery. By now, whispers about a curse gained volume. After all, bad things come in threes, as the saying goes, and this trio of sudden deaths certainly raised eyebrows among those following the Iceman's story. For nearly a decade after, no further incidents were linked to the mummy, and the talk of the curse simmered down. But in October 2004, fate delivered the most dramatic and ironic blow yet. Helmut Simon, the man who had discovered Ötzi, suddenly went missing while hiking in the Alps, not far from the original find spot. The 67-year-old Simon had battled for years for proper recognition and compensation for finding Ötzi. He even won a legal settlement as official discoverer. He was an experienced outdoorsman, yet when he headed out for a solo hike, a freak early snowstorm struck the area. After an intense 8-day search, rescue teams found Helmut Simon's frozen body at the bottom of a 100-metre drop. He'd fallen off a hidden cliff, presumably in whiteout conditions. Disturbingly, his corpse was discovered encased in ice and snow, mirroring how he'd found Ötzi 13 years before. As if that weren't enough, the curse appeared to strike again that very same week. At Helmut Simon's funeral, the head of the mountain rescue team that had found Simon, Dieter Warneck, attended to pay his respects. Warneck was just 45 and in excellent health, a rugged, seasoned rescuer. Yet within an hour of the funeral, Warneck collapsed from a sudden heart attack and died. His grieving colleagues were dumbfounded. 2 deaths, back to back, both tied to the Iceman's discovery. By now, the press had a field day, dubbing these events the Curse of Ötzi. 7 people closely linked to Ötzi's discovery or research had died prematurely, many of them in violent or uncanny ways. One of the most striking cases was that of Professor Konrad Spindler, the archaeologist who first examined Ötzi's remains in 1991. Spindler had always dismissed the curse stories as nonsense concocted by media. He joked to reporters, "I think it's all a load of rubbish. The next thing you'll be saying is I will be next." He scoffed that people were attributing normal deaths to a mummy's vengeance, much like the overhyped Tutankhamun case. In April 2005, Spindler's jest came true in a way. He died at age 66 from complications of multiple sclerosis, an illness he had battled for years. While his death was from natural causes, the timing fueled the legend. Spindler had indeed been next after Simon and Warneck. His passing made headlines as yet another Iceman investigator gone. Rounding out this grim roster was Dr. Tom Loy, a molecular archaeologist based in Australia. Dr. Loy had performed groundbreaking DNA analysis on Ötzi's clothing and weapons. In 2003, he discovered microscopic traces of blood from 4 different individuals on Ötzi's gear, shattering the theory that Ötzi died alone. It proved he likely had a violent clash with others before his death. Loy's work humanised Ötzi, revealing a story of possibly carrying a wounded companion and fighting off attackers, as he hypothesised. He was even writing a book about the Iceman. But in late 2005, just before finishing the manuscript, Tom Loy was found dead in his home in Brisbane at age 63. An autopsy was inconclusive. Loy had an inherited blood coagulation condition. His death came quite suddenly. Friends noted that Loy, like Spindler, had dismissed talk of a curse, yet he became the 7th person associated with Ötzi to die a premature or unexpected death. So 4 of these deaths were violent accidents. The others were sudden illnesses. By 2005, tabloids gleefully declared the Iceman curse had claimed 7 lives. And many couldn't help but wonder, had Ötzi's disturbance unleashed some ancient hex? Was the Copper Age warrior exacting revenge from beyond the grave for being yanked out of his icy resting place? So is there really a curse attached to Ötzi the Iceman? Skeptics point out that hundreds of researchers, museum staff and visitors have come into contact with Ötzi or his artefacts, and most have suffered no unusual harm. People die every day, and sometimes humans look for patterns where none truly exist. In this case, compressing a dozen years of accidents and ailments into a single narrative of doom can definitely give the impression of a curse. Statistically, 7 deaths over 14 years, among the vast number of people involved with Ötzi, might not be that implausible. Several of the deceased had underlying risks, for example Spindler's MS or Tom Loy's blood condition, which provide natural explanations. One might argue that if there were a true curse, many more of the 300,000 people who visit Ötzi each year would be dropping like flies, which thankfully is not the case. But that said, even hardened skeptics admit the pattern of deaths around Ötzi is eerie. The stories have all the ingredients of a paranormal mystery: an ancient mummy, a series of sudden deaths, and ironic twists, like Helmut Simon dying in a similar fashion to Ötzi. Humans have long been fascinated by the idea of cursed relics, from Tutankhamun's tomb to the Hope Diamond, so Ötzi's legend has joined that lore. Locals in the Alps sometimes half-jokingly say that Ötzi should have been left in peace on the mountain. And in the spooky spirit of things, some have even suggested that Ötzi's furious spirit might be exacting vengeance on anyone who disturbed his 53rd century slumber. But you can make up your own mind. The facts are all there, true events that really happened to real people. Was it all just a cruel coincidence compounded by media hype? Or is there something truly unearthly about the Iceman? What's absolutely certain is that Ötzi the Iceman has left a mark on our world, not just scientifically, but also culturally, even supernaturally. From the day Helmut and Erika Simon stumbled upon those weathered bones in the ice, a remarkable story began to unfold. A story of ancient life and violent death, of discovery and scientific marvel. And yes, of an alleged curse that reminds us how legends are born.
Hey friends, it's Nikayla from the podcast Side Hustle Pro. I'm always looking for ways to keep my kids entertained without screens, and the Yoto Mini has been a total lifesaver. My kids are obsessed. Yoto is a screen-free audio player where kids just pop in a card and listen. Hours of stories, music, podcasts, and more, and no screens or ads. With hundreds of options for ages 0 to 12, it's the perfect gift they'll go back to again and again. Check it out at yotoplay.com. YOTOPLAY.com.
Hi, it's Sarah. I'm the founder of Olive in June. And can I tell you the one thing that always makes my day better? A fresh manicure. But who has the time or the money to go to the salon every week? That's why we created the Olive in June Gel Mani system. It gives you that same mani that you get at a salon for so much less. It comes with everything you need, a pro-level lamp, salon-grade tools, our damage-free gel polish that lasts up to 21 days. All you do is prep, paint, cure, and you're good to go. And the best part, it's super easy and so affordable. Each mani breaks down to $2. So let's skip that $80 salon appointment and get the salon quality look at home for so much less and on your schedule. Head to oliveinjune.com/DIYGel20 and use code DIYGel20 for 20% off your first gel mani system. That's oliveinjune.com/DIYGel20. Code DIYGel20 for 20% off your first gel mani system.
Now, if someone wakes me up from my slumber, I am cursing them, you better believe it. And especially if it's after 50 odd centuries of sleep. You know, I'm bad enough after a few hours. I'm coming for you. So it wouldn't surprise me if that Ötzi was mighty peed off and was coming for revenge. It's really interesting, and you know, I understand it. The scientific world want to dissect, take a look at, blah, 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 learn from. It also does seem very disrespectful to have somebody's body. I'm not sure how comfortable I feel about that. And like I said, somebody wakes me up, if they take my body and have it on view for everybody to look at, I'm going to be mighty annoyed. Really am. I'd love to know whether you think there's a curse associated with this. I will do Tutankhamun's curse one day. I just think it's been so done that I try to do stories that haven't been repeated that often, but I will come back to it one day. Well, that's the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch you again tomorrow. Take care, everyone.
Hey friends, it's Nikayla from the podcast Side Hustle Pro. I'm always looking for ways to keep my kids entertained without screens, and the Yoto Mini has been a total lifesaver. My kids are obsessed. Yoto is a screen-free audio player where kids just pop in a card and listen. Hours of stories, music, podcasts, and more, and no screens or ads. With hundreds of options for ages 0 to 12, it's the perfect gift they'll go back to again and again. Check it out at yotoplay.com. YOTOPLAY.com.
If you're a smoker or vapor, ready to make a change, you really only need one good reason. But with Zyn nicotine pouches, you'll discover many good reasons. Zyn is America's #1 nicotine pouch brand. Plus, Zyn offers a robust rewards program. There are lots of options when it comes to nicotine satisfaction, but there's only one Zyn. Check out zyn.com/find to find Zyn at a store near you. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
From Adams Morgan to Anacostia Park, we all want safer neighborhoods. But what does real safety mean? Real safety means preventing crime before it happens. By having police work with communities to disrupt cycles of violence. By supporting families with stable housing. And providing more mental health and drug treatment. We know that adding more police and locking up more people doesn't make us safer. Real safety means investing in the things that help prevent crime. Learn more at realsafetydc.